So, me and Tressa finally met in person after about a month and a half since our events of Neopets and Toontown. She was a good person at heart and she and I had been hanging around with each other for about some time now, and to think that it was because of such events that had brought us to now. Oh yeah, almost forgot. She and I are dating, and I met her one of her older brothers, Harold I think is his name. He seems nice, though seems to be a massive major young nothing that of Jake. That's a massive understatement. Then I met one of her younger siblings and one of her nephews. Stubborn but cute ones they were. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm Artemis, that punk rock biker, from the last time I wrote my events to Marcus, and I have something that happened to me and Tressa to share. It was on Club Penguin Island, not the private server CTI forever. You see, this happened prior to her and myself meeting and dating. This is from a journal I had kept but had not used at all since I bought it. It was around August 17th, Harold's birthday, if I can recall correctly. Now it was your average Tuesday and Tressa was helping with her family to celebrate Harold's birthday, but she had delivered something to me before Marcus had texted me about Tressa having an attachment for me. I kind of had a chuckle since I had originally thought he was screwing with me, you know? I had told him on what he meant in a somewhat sarcastic tone. To his and my surprise, she really must have had feelings for me since the last time I had last played that Toontown online was around the 8th or 9th. She and I barely met, mind you, but she thought I was a nice person, though I assumed that at the time I thought she was calling me the nice guy. Kerman was getting ready to ask if that's what she meant. Marcus beat me to the punch and said that it wasn't in that sense. So with nothing better to do, I opened the package that was delivered to me and it was one of those CDs you see in something like Walmart or Best Buy, with a custom print on it. Raising an eyebrow I checked the CD print. It looked like fan art of the recently closed Club Penguin, or that of Club Penguin Island judging by the look of the in-game avatars and characters in the game. What somewhat amused me was that whoever did this CD cover also got the Club Penguin logo on there despite the fact that there was no Disney logo on there. She gave me a bootleg disc of this game. I asked myself as I inserted the disc into the PC that I had touched Toontown and Neopets on. Once inserted, I had been welcomed to Club Penguin Island's installation wizard. Not surprising about that, as it was entirely normal, leading to the launcher and then the game itself. The login screen seems normal as well, though I had been curious about why it installed when this game had been in offline mode since the December 21st, 2018. Even though that someone could have just simply put the game folder there, I was a bit impressed that someone kept the desktop installer and put it in here just so someone could install it afterwards. With that, I signed up and did the usual things it expects out the player, got out of the ship, met Antarctic, and fixed up the ship, and got the starter pack. Simple enough as that, I said to myself. I left the computer alone after that, and as it was late, I went to bed. The following morning, I had done more of Antarctic's missions, and was getting around to doing the captain's missions. During the time, however, I received a text message from Tressa, apologizing for what had happened when she told Marcus about her feelings about me. I told her it was fine and I kind of took it out of context. Since we are both cool with each other, I admitted to her that she was pretty cute. I paused progress to go to work at Wendy's, since I was called on short notice and the Wendy's I was working at was short-staffed. Damn them for not hiring in that location. To be fair, after it had been 8 or 9 hours, I had gotten back to the computer and resumed where I was before. Though I looked tired as hell, even though I had coffee to try and combat that. While I was playing the game again, I had gotten the rewards that the captain's missions had on offer. Got to say, it's a bit addicting. But it felt boring since I had not seen anyone else, and I ain't great on how to do my own private thing since I'm able to use debug mode. That was when I saw Tressa's penguin avatar, though I don't think she knows I'm here, or was waiting for me. Now to make note, I was wearing a plain dusty brown hoodie with a blondish wig in game. Tressa was wearing what looked like her regular outfit with a light gray shoulder-length wig. I approached her and tried to say something to her, and was unable to say anything. It was only when her character turned around she had hugged me and said she was sorry for not waiting so she can say she loves me. Tressa at that point had also told me that she gave me this disc so she and I could be somewhat of a couple of sorts and wanted to meet in person often. Her character had duped mine, which resulted in causing her character, along with my character and myself, to blush. I smiled at this kind of love letter, and I told her that she is still cute, if not more so. And she blushed hard at that and giggled. My character hugged hers back. And that led to her telling me about similar events, that led her character standing there and waiting for my character to arrive at that point, and she and I had genuinely said that we loved each other, and we waited about 2 weeks until we could officially call ourselves BF and GF, though we did hang out more often than we did before. And on top of that we had also been working our jobs. She's a waitress at Denny's and worked at a Best Buy as a cashier, while I was a cook at Wendy's and also had a side job at a gas station during the weekends, so money was not an issue. This is the end of what I written out. I do apologize if it was run on, as I was running on no sleep and I wanted to rush it out. So bonus note, I had played some Left 4 Dead Survival with Harold yesterday. He seemed okay, but I could tell he had not been on the game for quite a while since he had told me it had been a good while since he touched it. From what he said, he mentioned he was a middle school student since he touched L41, which was I can somewhat relate since it had been some time that I had touched it myself. Addendum, so around October 20th, Harold had told me that while he did find it nice she's dating me, to be careful with how she is treated. I took his words in to account and never really harmed her, nor did I ever spoil her, and she never done the same to me, surprisingly enough, even though I had tried to keep secret of the fact that I had my own Neopets. I just that she may have figured that out when they entered Toontown without incident, that on somehow our Neopets get themselves in the real world. No clue what happened there, but with us taking care of them and each other, and what made it more surprising was the fact that they had their own jobs. Addendum 2, so it's Halloween, and I had went with being my Skyrim character, a ginger-haired Breton with a full beard and what looked like Fallout Smirk grunt outfit, and was wearing full hide armor without the helmet. And Tressa decided to go for her Toontown character Katie. I internally howled when I saw her in that. We have been wanting to go to a Halloween party together back in September, and when we were invited by Marcus and Harold, it would be from around 9 p.m. to midnight, which we arrived to Marcus's place, where the party would be at. I'll write back soon afterwards. Addendum 3, Tressa here, so Harkness has been writing these events that had happened from the past few months and some current events, and I wanted to write what had happened during and post-party. You see, when we arrived at Marcus' house, there was beer provided, and we had been expecting some more people, but it was just Harold, Harkness, Marcus, myself and Marcus's sister, and we talked about some things. Just gonna say, I did have some fun with playing with them on Rock Band and had been playing some Guitar Hero 3. And after the 3 hours, I drove Harold and Harkness home and told Bro that I was gonna spend the night with Harkness. He didn't seem to mind. So I drove myself and Harkness to his place and had him on his bed, and decided to sleep on the couch. Final addendum, Harkness again, after I had gotten pretty hammered. I was told by Tressa that she drove me home and told her brother that she had spent the night in my place on the couch, so I'm gonna write this final addendum as a way to get my final thoughts on here. When I got up and was gonna make breakfast, only to see Tressa still in her Toontown costume, haha. I smiled from how adorable she was and went to wake her up. She stirred up when I had pet her on her cheek and finally got breakfast made. After breakfast, I drove her home and said see you around. She blew a kiss my way, smiled and walked home, meeting up with Harold. After all of that, I returned home and relaxed, as I had gotten a day off for once from both shifts. Also, one last thing before I do truly end this. I have not mentioned in the texts I wrote that one of my aunts had been severely pissed off at me when she had figured out that I was actually dating someone who they and I had actual feelings for. The rest of my family seems to be usually approving of it though, and Tressa's family had been also usually approving of this as well. Well, all but maybe her mom. From what I had been told, her mom and my aunt had found out that Tressa and I had been seeing each other more often in person after our shifts and almost caused some shit between me and Tressa, but we had been civil with it too, and Tressa's mom had understood that she can't really be babied anymore. My aunt, on the other hand, had been attempting to get up my throat about how what had been going on in her family. My dad had gotten her to shut the hell up when he mentioned that it was bullshit. After that happened, a few hours after I got off of work, I saw Tressa was in the living room, sitting and watching TV. She was a bit worried about what had been going on with her mom, and when I told her what had been going on with my aunt, she understood that my aunt was being pretty unreasonable with me. I sat next to and hugged her, saying things are going to be okay, and I'm gonna be here for her always. She smiled and said that she loved me. You know how Fox has a weird way of counting Simpsons episodes? They refuse to count a couple of them, making the amount of episodes inconsistent. The reason for this is a lost episode from season 1. Finding details about this missing episode is difficult. No one who was working on the show at the time likes to talk about it. From what has been pieced together, the lost episode was written entirely by Matt Groening. During production of the first season, Matt started to act strangely. He was very quiet, seemed nervous and morbid. Mentioning this to anyone who was present results in them getting very angry and forbidding you to ever mention it to Matt. I first heard of it at an event where David Silverman was speaking. Someone in the crowd asked about the episode, and Silverman simply left the stage, ending the presentation hours early. The episode's production number was 7G06. The title was Dead Bart. The episode, labeled 7G06, Moaning Lisa, was made later and given Dead Bart's production code to hide the letter's existence. In addition to getting angry, asking anyone who was on the show about this will cause them to do everything they can to stop you from directly communicating with Matt Groening. At a fan event, I managed to follow him after he spoke to the crowd, and eventually had a chance to talk to him alone as he was leaving the building. He didn't seem upset that I had followed him, probably expected a typical encounter with an obsessive fan. When I mentioned the lost episode though, all color drained from his face and he started trembling. When I asked him if he could tell me any details, he sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He grabbed a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to me. He begged me never to mention the episode again. The piece of paper had a website address on it. I would rather not say what it was, for reasons you'll see in a second. I entered the address into my browser, and I came to a site that was completely black, except for a line of yellow text, a download link. I clicked on it, and a file started downloading. Once the file was downloaded, my computer went crazy. It was the worst virus I had ever seen. System restore didn't work. The entire computer had to be rebooted. Before doing this though, I copied the file onto a CD. I tried to open it on my now empty computer, and as I suspected, there was an episode of The Simpsons on it. The episode started off like any other episode, but had very poor quality animation. If you've seen the original animation for Some Enchanted Evening, it was similar, but less stable. The first act was fairly normal, but the way the characters acted was a little off. Homer seemed angrier, Marge seemed depressed, Lisa seemed anxious, Bart seemed to have genuine anger and hatred for his parents. The episode was about the Simpsons going on a plane trip. Near the end of the first act, the plane was taking off. Bart was fooling around, as you'd expect. However, as the plane was about 50 feet off the ground, Bart broke a window on the plane and was sucked out. At the beginning of the series, Matt had an idea that the animated style of The Simpsons world represented life, and that death turned things more realistic. This was used in this episode. The picture of Bart's corpse was barely recognizable. They took full advantage of it not having to move, and made an almost photorealistic drawing of his dead body. Act 1 ended with a shot of Bart's corpse. When Act 2 started, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were sitting at their table, crying. The crying went on and on. It got more pained and sounded more realistic, better acting than you would think possible. The animation started to decay even more as they cried, and you could hear murmuring in the background. The characters could barely be made out. They were stretching and blurring. They looked like deformed shadows with random bright colors thrown on them. There were faces looking in the window, flashing in and out, so you were never sure what they looked like. This crying went on for all of Act 2. Act 3 opened with a title card saying 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge, and Lisa were skeletally thin and still sitting at the table. There was no sign of Maggie or the pets. They decided to visit Bart's grave. Springfield was completely deserted, and as they walked to the cemetery, the houses became more and more decrepit. They all looked abandoned. When they got to the grave, Bart's body was just lying in front of his tombstone, looking just like it did at the end of Act 1. The family started crying again. Eventually they stopped and just stared at Bart's body. The camera zoomed in on Homer's face. According to summaries, Homer tells a joke at this part, but it isn't audible. In the version I saw, you can't tell what Homer is saying. The view zoomed out as the episode came to a close. The tombstones in the background had the names of every Simpsons guest star on them. Some that no one had heard of in 1989, some that haven't been on the show yet. All of them had F dates on them. For guests who died since, like Michael Jackson and George Harrison, the dates were when they would die. The credits were completely silent and seemed handwritten. The final image was the Simpson family on their couch, like in the intros, but all drawn in hyper-realistic, lifeless style of Bart's corpse. A thought occurred to me after seeing the episode. For the first time, you could try to use the tombstones to predict the death of living Simpsons guest stars, but there's something odd about most of the ones who haven't died yet. All of their deaths are listed as the same date. A few months later. Well, I had to get rid of that computer I watched the episode on. Even after a complete reformatting, it never worked correctly. The episode file could never be deleted from it and it kept opening on its own. I wiped the hard drive clean several times and the episode wouldn't go away. The sound control didn't work and it was a laptop, but the power never seemed to run out and I couldn't get it to turn off. I was going to keep the computer just so I'd have a copy of the lost episode, but looking at it was making me nervous. I had a recurring nightmare several nights in a row. The episode was playing, but instead of the photorealistic Bart corpse, it was myself at 10 years old. I found a picture of myself at 10 and the nightmare was closer to it than my own memory had been. I swear. That picture of myself at 10, dead, started flashing on the computer screen so quickly that I could never be sure. After that, I destroyed the computer. I haven't been able to get the episode out of my head, though, and decided to do more research to try to understand it. I found a few people online who seem to know about it. Apparently the episode aired once in a suburb of Portland, Oregon. I have a cousin who was watching The Simpsons during the first season and lives around there, so I asked him if he remembered the episode. He asked me how I knew about it. It was a nightmare he had that he had only told his parents about, and I was only a few years old at the time. I told him about the episode I saw and the people online who remembered it. He thought I was just playing a prank on him, and when I got him to look at the online posts about it, he screamed and hung up. He hasn't responded to any attempts I made to contact him since. Determined to get to the bottom of this, I kept searching online. I found someone who said they had a tape of it they would sell to me. I was nervous, but determined to find out the truth about this and end the matter. I bought the tape as well as a really old and cheap TV/VCR, since I had a feeling neither would be the same after I watched the episode. The episode was pretty much the same as the file I downloaded. I don't want to say any more. This wasn't worth it and I'd give anything to go back to how I felt when I had the computer with a file scaring me. I destroyed the tape, but it didn't help. The commercials on the tape. I don't want to remember them. There were monsters from my dreams I had never told anyone about. News promos about tragedies that hadn't happened yet. Surreal computer-generated animation that wouldn't have been possible in the 80s or now for that matter. A former friend watched it with me, but he saw completely different things, with one exception. There was a seemingly live news report from June 6, 2013. In complete monotone, he recited the details of millions of people having died in their sleep, some of them waking up for a few seconds first, rambling incoherently about something that people could only piece together had something to do with nightmares. I'm sure you can figure out what date was on the tombstones of the currently alive celebrities. There was one difference in the episode itself, though. The joke Homer told was completely clear on this version. When it zooms in on Homer's face while looking at Bart, he says, "If only we all were that lucky." I am one of many Pokemon hack collectors that can be found on the internet. I know almost all of them, including the famous Pokemon Cursed Black Hat that was told about all over /x/. The story of PCB, which is what I'll call Pokemon Cursed Black from now on, was and will always have a huge impact on me as it caused me to have no sleep for days with the idea of a Pokemon that can kill others. While many people try to make recreations of it, they could never capture the fright of the original. This is where my story comes in. I was planning on getting Pokemon White when it came out in a month, so I decided I needed to play one of the old Pokemon games before getting White. Seeing as I had none of them, I decided to go to the local flea market to buy a used copy with my friend, who shall remain anonymous. While there, none of the stands had any used Pokemon games, nor any hacked ones. Depressed, I told my friend that we were leaving until he pointed out a stand that I didn't notice before. We went over there and asked the man if he had any Pokemon games. He said he had some and went into the back of the stand. Moments later, he gave me a used copy of Gold version, which excited me. I asked him how much did he want for it, but the guy said I could have it for free. It sounded sketchy at first, but I was filled with joy, so I said goodbye to him and he said goodbye back. As we was walking back to my friend's car, I started to notice the look of the cartridge. It was all eaten up, and it appeared the cartridge's color was fading. The sticker that had Gold's artwork appeared to have almost been torn off, with two of the sides still there. Ignoring this, I got out of my friend's car, after saying goodbye to him, went inside and sat on the couch, and popped the game into my Game Boy Color and got ready to be blasted away with nostalgia. Here is where things get weird. The title screen was different as the sky was pitch black, with ominous clouds at the bottom, and there was no ho-ho flying on the screen. There was no copyright date and title was just called Pokemon. Strange I thought, but I pressed on thinking that this was a hack of Gold. When I started my game, I saw that I had 10 Pokeballs in my backpack, which was unusual, but I ignored it and went to get my Pokemon. When I got my Pokemon, a Totodile, I went to check him out, but I saw that I had another Pokemon on my team. But it was one who I read about on the internet. One who I saw in the creepypasta. It was Ghost. Yes, it was Ghost from PCB. I almost dropped the Game Boy when I saw this. I was in shock and awe when I came to the realization that this was not only a hack of Gold, but this must have been some Pokemon fan's idea of a sequel to PCB. I thought, why not? Maybe something's different with this version of Ghost. When I found a wild Mariel, I chose Ghost to fight it. Just like in PCB, Ghost had only one move, Curse. Since Curse was in this game, I thought Ghost would have his special curse from PCB. When I selected it, the screen cut to black and Mariel's cry was distorted and slowed down. When the screen came back, Mariel was gone, indicating it died. I knew this would be basically like PCB, but after using Curse, Ghost got 100 XP and leveled up to level 2. I thought, came to me and I figured that if Ghost could level up, that meant that Ghost probably had an evolved form or two. So throughout the game, I used Curse on all the Pokemon I could find to level up Ghost. It was up until level 16 that the Pokemon evolution screen came up. The text in the box said, "Hold on, Ghost is evolving." It took a while until the box said, "Ghost evolved into Phantom." I couldn't believe it. Ghost evolved into something else. It was a Pokemon named Phantom, and it was very different from Ghost. Instead of it being a taller and skinnier version of Ghost, Phantom had a cloak over him like the Grim Reaper, long arms and huge claws, and he had red eyes. I figured that Phantom might be a much stronger version of Ghost. So I went to find a wild Pokemon to test Phantom out. I found a wild Bulbasaur while I was walking through Kanto. I saw that Phantom not only had Curse, but a move called Devour. I wonder what this move did, so I selected it. A small animation came up showing Phantom grabbing Bulbasaur, and Phantom started to gorge on it and began eating it. I was speechless and I just looked at this for 2 minutes before the battle screen came back and said that Phantom went up to a level 17. I started to not feel well, but I pressed on hoping that was a sick joke by the creator. I started using my other Pokemon, but I began to have an urge to use Phantom and see if he had an evolved form. So I began, and regretted, to use Phantom and used Curse and Devour on any Pokemon I could find. When Phantom leveled up to level 31, the evolution screen came back up now saying, Hold on, Phantom is evolving. I waited what being Phantom would evolve to. After 2 minutes, the text in the box said, Phantom evolved into Spirit. Spirit had red eyes like Phantom and was all dark like Ghost. He had Phantom's cloak but without the hood. He had razor-sharp teeth, covered in blood. Yes, that's right, blood. In fact, his whole body was covered in blood. His hands were covered in wet blood and his cloak was covered in dry blood with weird symbols on it. He also had spines growing out of his back. Spirit had 3 moves: Curse, Devour, and a new move called Decapitate. I found a wild Pichu and used Decapitate. The screen cut to black and slashing noises were heard and Pichu's cry was all distorted and the pitch was lowered. When the battle screen came back, I almost threw up chunks when I saw a bunch of jets and organs of what used to be Pichu. I continued to use Spirit up until the climatic battle with Red. After cursing, devouring, and decapitating all of his Pokemon, Red came back, but said, "You will be sorry." The screen cut to black and a box came up saying, many years after, it showed my character on top of Mount Sliver, but he was an old man, similar to what happened to Red in PCV. My movement was slow and everywhere I went, there were tombstones all over the Johto and Kanto regions. There was also blood everywhere, and remains of trainers and Pokemon. When I reached my town my character lived in, all of the windows and doors were boarded up but my character's house. I went inside and the place was even bloodier and I found the character's mom cut in half. She said to me before dying, "Run. Go." I soon went back to the spot where I started the game and the screen cut to black. It then showed all the Pokemon and trainers I either cursed, devoured, or decapitated. Another black screen came up. I was then sent to the ruins of Alph, where the unknown radio music played in the background. I kept walking down the hallway when I saw Red. He said this, "You've done it now, Jack." How the game knew my name was a mystery. I was then sent to the battle screen. I was the old man sprite from Red and Blue and Red sent out Ghost, Phantom, and Spirit. I would have been shocked that the creator of this hack did a triple battle before Black and White were released. But I didn't care, I just wanted this game to end. I checked my inventory and saw the unthinkable. I had no items. All my Pokemon were gone. If I tried to run I couldn't. All I could do was fight. My character could only use struggle, and if he did, he would just get hit by the recoil. When it was Ghost, Phantom, and Spirit's turns they would say. When I was on my last of my health, I looked at my Pokemon and saw what I thought would be my salvation. Remember those 10 Pokeballs I had earlier? Well, somehow, they had the first 10 Pokemon I cursed with Ghost. Thinking that they will save me, I tried to select Mariel. However, it said she was dead. That was odd, because she had full health. I tried the others but no dice. I knew this was the game's sick way of tricking me. I went back to the battle screen and selected Struggle. Then it said these lines of text. Ghost used Curse. Phantom used Devour. Spirit used Decapitate. The screen then cut to black one last time. I tried pressing every button combination but nothing happened. I was stuck on this black screen. After turning off and on the Game Boy, the only option was New Game. The game erased my file. I tried different combos like not evolving Ghost or Phantom, which in turn would only lead to only that one Ghost alone or both Ghost and Phantom. I never knew someone this sadistic would ever make a game like this. But this brings up a new question. The original PCV asked the question, what happens when Pokemon die? But this game that I'm now calling Pokemon Doomed Black asks a question, what happens when you evolve Death? The results would be catastrophic. But there is one more thing I must say before I return to the life once, and before Pokemon Doomed Black was in my hands. What would happen if I didn't choose Ghost at all? Would I get a good ending, or would I get a bad ending, or would I get the same results as before? I need to find out. Somehow, someway. I need to find out.